Oh man, I am so excited to be here. I am pumped. This is going to be so fun. I am so glad and excited to see all of you fantastic women sitting out here right now. I really want to, when you interact with the team today, just spread your love to them. They make these talks phenomenal. There's a lot of planning that goes into these, and this team executes everything perfectly. So I am so thankful for all of you. So please just spread your love to them, give them a high five, a squeeze for all the work that they do to get this set up and going in place for us. So we have a fun time, a lot of stuff to talk about, like hormone harmony, right? Like it impacts everything, and we're not covering every aspect of hormone harmony because it would be a weekend seminar. It'd be a weekend. But we are going to cover some powerful things that you can do to allow your body to do what it's naturally made to do and to help it to harmonize and give it time to do as it was meant to do and built to do. Does that sound good? So the first part of this, and I have you all in mind with that bathroom break, right? Those are key. The first half of this, we're going to talk about like our younger years, our puberty, fertility up to perimenopause before that. So after break, we're going to get into perimenopause, menopause, hormone harmony as well. So a lot of big ideas in this first part. So we're going to get started. Andy introduced me very well. This is my family, and this is the very core of why I'm so passionate about what I do, because of those little girls right there. That's my daughter and her family over here. My son-in-law's in the Air Force. Rosalie in the middle, she's 5. Roxanne, that name is so classic, right? Roxanne, she'll be 1 in January. And these little girls, I never knew being a grandma could be such a joy. It is amazing. Yeah. So not yet. These little girls are the epitome of why we do. We need open conversation about the changes of life, especially when we're in our later years. That is met with so much silence and so much glazed looks about all the transitions and all the changes that we experience in our life. These girls are going to know and be empowered with knowledge to be comfortable with their bodies, to be able to have open conversation about what's going on, be able to be safe in asking questions about it. And it's a shift that's happening in our society right now, long time coming, but it needs to catch up. This kid right here, this is Joshua, this is my son. He's going to be married one day with kids. So he's living the single life right now. But that's my husband, Moses. We'll be married about 18 years in December, I believe. So this is my family, and this is exactly why generational health is so important. Not just for my grandkids, but my great-grandkids and on and on. So we're going to get into it here. This is statistics. I hope that all these slides are not cut off. I'm not sure what's going on there, but statistics are no fun anyway. They are basically just reminders that stuff just keeps increasingly getting worse as time goes by. Everything in 2024 in the research I've done, not just hormonal disorders, but diseases across the board are up in 2024. They're not going down. So, 80% of women experience hormonal imbalances. 70% are not aware that we have hormonal imbalances until we start to feel that symptom. And by that time, it's already been going on for a long time. PCOS is a common hormonal disorder. It takes a long time to diagnose. And 26% of women have that diagnosis. Now, a little bit about our history, which is not very long in the research of women and women's health. It started in the 1960s. Women were not included in scientific research. The research was done on men's bodies, and then the results of that was generalized into women's health, which is why it hasn't served us very well since the 60s. In the 60s to the 80s, for 3 decades, there's a push for greater attention to women's unique health needs. We are complex, and they've said it, like they don't want to look into the women's bodies because it's so complex. It's so much to look into, right? But we need appropriate health care for us. Feminist health activists of the time began to challenge the medical establishment for the neglect of women's health. And then that's when things started moving slowly but surely, but in a better direction. And then we got into the 1990s. And that wasn't that long ago. So again, yeah, exactly. The National Institute for Health created the Office of Research on Women's Health to ensure that women's health issues were adequately addressed, which is something we're still trying to accomplish. This marked the turning point for systemic research in women's health. And then in 93, the act mandated that women and minorities be included in clinical research. So this is a major step in our health as women, but it's still so very new, so very new. The good thing now is that there is more and more doctors of all types, MDs, realizing that there's a specialty for menopause coming up. There's going to be specialty doctors for this area of life, which is good. But there is a platform in which they're finally speaking up. Unfortunately, that platform is always on the private platforms, right? So you have to listen to the podcast and go into the web and research all this to hear this. And even then, they don't always agree. But it is going, it's moving forward. So I want to start with something that I learned. It's called the hormone hierarchy. Has anybody ever heard about this? Awesome. This was so amazing when I first saw this. So it's a hormone hierarchy is this right here. Now, we often hear about cortisol. We hear a lot about insulin. We hear a lot about our sex hormones, right? But oxytocin is the top of this hormone hierarchy. Now, oxytocin was initially discovered in I think that was the 60s as well. And 1906, oxytocin. And they saw that women that had just given birth had it surging through their bodies. And they thought that it was a bonding hormone. For decades, they called it the bonding hormone because it was mother-baby bonding. But this hormone is amazing in what it does. And it's also called the love hormone. And when this is surging through your system, because cortisol is the stress hormone that is flourishing through our body so much now. When oxytocin is flourishing through our system and surging through our veins, cortisol has no option but to dampen. It cannot be on the rise. And when oxytocin is surging through our veins, the sex hormones and the insulin also are able to function the way they're supposed to. Now, with cortisol up, it dampens our insulin sensitivity. With cortisol up, it dampens our sex hormone formulation. But with oxytocin, all of that has to get in line. Isn't that cool? And you don't have to do anything to get oxytocin except for connect. It's free. You don't have to pay for this, okay? Okay. They found that when you have higher levels of oxytocin surging through your veins, it improves your glucose uptake. It causes fat cells to break down and would often make you less insulin resistant. You can go to the next slide. And then the next one. Okay, so these are some studies right here. Thank you. Animal studies that they did on oxytocin. And it showed that deficiencies in oxytocin signaling made in the brain led to more obesity despite the normal food intake in mice. So despite how the mice were fed, healthy, non-healthy, doesn't matter. The deficiency of oxytocin led to a higher weight. In a human study, they found that low oxytocin concentration in the blood was significantly lower in individuals with diabetes. So they gave these subjects oxytocin, and they saw that it resulted in significant weight loss, increased insulin sensitivity, and all around health for these guys. So if you think about it, think about how amazing that is. This hormone was set up to surge through our body, connect with our babies, connect with our husbands, and get all these other hormones in check. God is amazing. So, what are the best ways to increase our oxytocin? Hugs. Skydiving proved to increase it 200%. 200%. Who's gone skydiving in here? One, two. Yeah, okay. So hugging at least around 8 times a day for about 10 seconds increase oxytocin. Any time of the day, anytime. Yeah. If you're not a hugger, you have a whole list of other things here. Okay. Using the word love, telling your husband you love them, telling your kids, telling the people in your life that you love them, releases oxytocin in you and bonus that person as well. Skydiving, we talked about. Warm and cold baths tend to bring cortisol levels down, allowing oxytocin to surge through. Human connection, and this is spending time with good friends that you enjoy being around, not just social obligations, right? People that you enjoy being around, family that you enjoy being around. Human connection is so vital for our health. And then so what happened a handful of years ago that was completely out? Yeah. That was so damaging to our society and human connection and bringing up of oxytocin and secluding people. So connection, yoga, meditation, giving, breath work, getting adjusted, of course. That is going to release oxytocin. And dancing. Dancing is literally my favorite thing to do to warm up before working out. It's boring just to stretch for me, so I just dance around my garage, and it is a huge surge of oxytocin. It's amazing. Okay. So oxytocin is the mama of hormones, and it is amazing in the effects it has in the body. So the more you have it surging through your body, the better off you are as far as that. So we're going to get into our fertile years, okay? Before menopause, we have a cycle. The whole point of having a cycle is because we are possibly going to get pregnant. That is why we have a cycle throughout those years. Those are our fertile years. And it's a big change in a woman's life. So to prepare the body as possible. Pregnancy, we prepare the body, thank you, for pregnancy. If there's not a fertilized egg, our body discharges that through menses, and then the cycle starts again. So how does this work? Now, the thing to think about and remember with the hormonal system particularly is that it's multiple organs that play a part in this. We don't want to think of our body as a bunch of silos. It's not just here for our hormones. It's not just here for our cardiac system. It's not just here for our neurology system. All of these systems work together for the balance of our health. And in this case, the HPA and the HPO axis, which is our neuro, brain, and endocrine hormone system. Now, this is our HPA, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. Now, this is very sciencey, but I wanted you to see that it's the brain communicating to the pituitary gland, communicating to the adrenal gland, and it's called a feedback loop. The brain senses, in this case, this is how cortisol is released for us to be alert and awake and be able to deal with high stress situations. So the brain talks to the pituitary gland talks to the adrenal gland, it releases cortisol, and then it sends a signal back saying, hey, we got cortisol, we can stop. This is the same for our reproductive system. So we have the hypothalamus, pituitary, ovaries. This is this axis. The hypothalamus is not pictured here, but think of the hypothalamus as the grandmother energy of your body. It is part of your neurology. It's constantly scanning the body to make sure that you are safe, especially when you're going through your cycle. Okay, so it's constantly making sure that your body is safe for pregnancy, that you feel safe with whoever you chose as your partner to allow that pregnancy to happen. It's constantly scanning safety in your body. It's looking for hydration, calm, not yet. Calm is looking for you to be at peace. It's looking for oxytocin, because that's a safe hormone, that you're rested and you have nutrition. So what it does is the hypothalamus will secrete gonadotropin releasing hormone. Okay, so that's these guys. They hit the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland releases follicle stimulating hormone. This is our follicular stage. This is about 7 to 10 days. This follicle stimulating hormone comes over here and it hits the ovaries to produce estrogen. Estrogen goes into the bloodstream, back to the hypothalamus, and lets it know, okay, there's an ovum here. It needs to get matured. We're going to release it. And then it releases, so that's about 3 to 4 days. This whole cycle is anywhere from 24 to 30 days. Hypothalamus, again, scans the body. Are we safe? Are we able to proceed? Can we do this in a healthy manner? Releasing luteinizing hormone brings you into your luteal phase, which is right before into your menses. The luteinizing hormone comes in, gets that egg, the ovum, to come out of the corpus luteum, go into the, thank you, perimenopause brain, the fallopian tube. Thank you. Waiting to be fertilized. When that doesn't happen, it sheds and we start this whole process over again. You can go to the next slide now. Now if that was a lot to look at, this is a very simple slide, okay? Period. The red is the estrogen surge. Okay, this is how our hormones are supposed to balance each other out. And then it decreases, progesterone comes in, luteal stage, and then into the week right before our period. What I like about this slide is how we feel mentally as we go through this cycle. Yeah. Yeah, it's like during your period, don't bother me. I'm in a thing. And then in our follicular stage, so this stage, this is where we are very energized. We can make good decisions. We can execute. We can work out really hard, hit PRs, and still feel energy for the rest of the day. And then it's going down. It's going down from there. And then in that premenstrual week there. Now, with this and what we're going through here, how do we, if we're having abnormal cycles, or how do we know we're doing what we can do to make sure that our bodies are capable and given everything it needs to do this cycle? This cycle takes a lot of energy, right? It takes a lot of energy to build a baby. It takes a lot of energy to go through menopause. It takes a lot of energy to be a woman, okay? In fact, Dr. Cameron brought something up the other day, which I've heard before, but it was great that he brought it, is that women are multipliers, okay? You give a woman a sperm, she's going to give you a child, okay? You give her a house, you're going to make it a home. There's a difference between a house and a home, okay? We are multipliers, but just wanted to throw that in there. I thought it was really cool.
And multitasking.
Yeah. I'm not so great at multitasking, I'm working on that, but a lot of women are. But this is intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about this. This isn't what we've been told in the past. I mean, just not too long ago, we had that metabolism workshop. And even I was on there talking about how we fast for 16 hours and then take a day off for women, or we take high amounts of protein. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But research is showing that that's based on research on men. So there's a way to fast for women. There's a way to work out for women according to what we're going through. There's a way to sleep. Women need more sleep. So we're going to get into this, and this is a game changer. So next slide now. So there's a lot of intermittent fasting benefits, okay? It is cellular repair, insulin regulation, and sensitivity to insulin, fat burning, not sugar burning, and it increases energy and, of course, balances sex hormones. In this book, Fast Like a Girl, that you guys all got, has anybody read this book? A couple people. This book just shifted my thinking for my body 110%. She does such a good job in going through every aspect of what your body could be experiencing and how to address it with fasting. And fasting is not to be taken lightly. It is powerful. It is powerful. Okay, so this is, you don't have to, again, pay attention to this, but there's multiple aspects of fasting that play into how this comes about. So who is turned off by the thought of fasting? Anybody? A couple. Okay. There's a lot that goes into that, the way that we're programmed to think about food and our day, about the impact that we think and how we're going to suffer while we're fasting, maybe. And maybe you've tried it before and it didn't work. But we'll get into that soon here too. I'm jumping ahead. I get so excited, okay? But listen, this is the basis of fasting. So, let me tell you about a study before I get into this. There was a comprehensive study, and it was one of the most comprehensive studies ever done on the science of fasting. And it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2019, not that long ago, less than 10 years ago. The authors reviewed more than 85 studies and declared that intermittent fasting should be used as a first-line defense of treatment for obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative brain conditions, and cancer. In that sentence alone, you can knock off what? 10, 15 medications? Okay? I mean, sign me up if that is the case, and it is proven here. It's also stated that intermittent fasting has anti-aging effects and can help with pre and post-surgery healing. How much money do we spend on our face routine? Anti-aging effects. So medications, thousands of dollars gone a year. Just sign me up for intermittent fasting. And if you think about it, 3 of the biggest diseases that we fight in America are listed in this sentence, and that's cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. Intermittent fasting is powerful. We have to be patient with our bodies as they go through that change. And it costs zero money. You have zero risk at doing intermittent fasting. It's also shown to improve microbiome. The scientific evidence out of Massachusetts Institute of Technology proves that fasting can regenerate interstitial stem cells, healing the gut biome, okay? That's with 24-hour fasting, which you'd work up to, unless you're like, I can take it and do it. But the cells, when they are reinvigorated and they're able to heal, they allow them to repair any damage that may have happened from a poor diet, stressful living, and numerous rounds of antibiotics. Because we know antibiotics ruin the gut, ruin it. That's why it hurts my heart when little ones are on it and it's already interacting with their gut biome, which is going to help them grow. Intermittent fasting 12 to 16 hours a day will help you lose weight, decrease brain fog, increase your energy and balance sex hormones. When you get to that 17-hour of fasting, once you get to that intermittent fasting, that autophagy kicks in. And autophagy is that cell regeneration. The cells are able to come in through the systems and clean house, okay? Cancer cells are taken out, dead cells are taken out, and it allows life to come into your cells. Does that make sense? Oh, autophagy. AUTOPH. It cleans house, so it allows your cells to be healed. It kills and takes out any cancer cells that are trying to form, because your cancer thrives on sugar. So you're taking that sugar component out of your body. So, yes.
17 hours, then you can eat, or do you keep going?
We'll get to that, yes, on some days, but we will definitely get to how we're going to fast for sure. Now, here's how it works. Now we're to this slide. Your body senses low glucose. It will then start to break down in the fat cells. Fatty acids are released from the fat cells along with other molecules, and they go to the liver. The liver synthesizes the ketones. This is where you get the ketosis diets and stuff coming in, goes into the bloodstream, and then starts to do its magical work throughout your body. Ketones are organic compounds that the liver makes when the blood sugar drops, hence our fasting. Ketones are an alternative source fuel for cells when glucose is not present, and our cells actually prefer the ketones over sugar to produce energy because it's more efficient energy and it's cleaner energy as far as our body is concerned. But it allows our nervous system tissue to be repaired in the neurons, mental clarity, and increased focus. So there's so many benefits. Ketones are preferred by our mitochondria. They interact with the hypothalamus. So there's our hypothalamus again, right? She is working here too. It turns off the hunger hormone. So if you fasted before and you're like, no, Dr. Sarah, that's not true, I was starving, stick to it, because it does eventually. Once your body starts acclimating to that fasting component, it turns off the hunger hormone. And this is where fasting for some women, and she talks about it in the book, can get very addictive because you're not feeling hungry, you're feeling very energetic, and anxiety is decreased, and there's a rise in GABA. GABA stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a neurotransmitter, and it's an anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. So you have this beautiful feeling of being very calm during your fasts. I've done long fasts before, and this is very true, so I promise you it does happen. It allows you to be more relaxed without food. We have a lot of anxiety around food, a lot of emotional attachment to food. Parts of our day are set apart to eat food. So it's all about trying to figure out what to do in those windows, which we'll talk about, right? So it's like, Andy was even talking about how her husband was fasting and it was dinner time and he came home. He's like, so what do I do now? I'm supposed to eat. That's what I'm supposed to do. So it's definitely a transition.
Walk in the door and go to the refrigerator.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that how much conversation is around what we're having for dinner? It's so much. I get so sick of it. I'm like, I don't even want to eat. They ask you before breakfast?
Yeah, they're asking before breakfast.
Stop it. My husband's, yeah, exactly. All right, so this is some charts to show what our glucose is doing in our blood and what ketones do. This person here is not fasting at all, okay? So their ketones are down, lots of blood glucose coming in. The body is not resting or even doing anything to regenerate. It's just managing this blood glucose, okay? This person here has a 5-2 alternating fasting schedule. So they're fasting here, their glucose is maintained, the ketones are rising up, doing their thing, all the things that I mentioned in the body. Food comes in, ketones come down, and that's okay. They're getting nutrition, right? That's a fasting schedule. This person flips every 18 hours. So glucose maintained in this fasting window. Ketones are rising. Food comes in, ketones lower. Fasting, up, sugar, food comes in, ketones lower. So of course, you can see the longer you fast, the higher your ketones go. But it's all, we're going to get into that in a minute, but this is a visual of what your body does with the ketones and the glucose when you're fasting. Oh, well, I apologize for the dinginess of that slide. We can go to that slide though. I'm going to talk about it. So this is for women that are in their fertilization years, okay? We're going to talk about fasting in our menopausal years. So it's a little different. Is this hard to see? Oh, and can you guys hear me back there? Okay. I will speak louder. Is this better? Okay. If you start to dip down again, just please raise your finger up because my voice doesn't carry. I need to make sure I'm projecting it for you. All right. So during our cycle, this is Mindy, who's the author of this book, talks about how to fast for the cycle, and she breaks it down very well. Okay. And she goes into phases. All right. So the majority of our fasting is done at night. So that's great, right? We can do that. And what the research is showing is that instead of not eating until noon, 1 o'clock, for women, we should up our dinner if we needed to. So if we eat at 8, maybe move your dinner up to 7 to allow a 12 to 13 hour fast to come through the night and into that evening through the night. and into the next morning. The reason why we don't want to really fast in the morning and not eat till like 12 or 2 p.m. is because of how our body manages cortisol. The first thing we get up, our cortisol spikes. That wakes us up, and that's normal. When we don't eat, the hypothalamus is kind of like looking, where's the nutrition so we can start our day? And it just bounces our hormones to eat a good, healthy meal in the morning. Now, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. If you're fasting from 5 at night and we're going to reach 13, 14 hours, you can eat at 6, 7 in the morning. But the key is to get your food in the first part of your day, moving up your evening meal if you needed to get that fast going. And then you build up from there. And that's for both any phase of life that a woman is in, whether we're have a cycle, infertile, or menopause. That is key to that. Now, she breaks it down for this. This is a power phase. This is day 1 through 10 of our cycle when we're fertile. We are going to fast from 13 to 72 hours. You start at 13. You start at 13. She is going to talk about how to build up to like 72 hours, okay? This is also a place where you're in a ketobiotic state. So ketobiotic means protein and healthy fats, okay? Ketobiotic, protein and healthy fats. And then you go into your ovulation, days 11 through 15. She calls this the manifestation phase. This is you're ovulating, you're preparing, you're fasting 13 to 15 hours. And they call it hormone feasting, which means you are bringing good carbs into your food, okay? So you want to eat sweet potatoes and fruit and regular potatoes. Those are really good carbs to eat during this time. This is my favorite time to eat because I get to eat sweet potatoes. I love them. Day 16 through 19 is our power phase, 13 to 72 hours of fasting, back to ketobiotic. And then we end in the nurture phase, day 22, our bleed, no fasting, okay? Hormonal feasting, so still bring those carbs in, and then that's the time where we rest. So it's what does she call that? A nurture phase. So why, and she talks about it in the book, are women supposed to fast such different hours? 13 to 15, you work up to 17. Sometimes you're going to do a 24-hour fast later when you're like the expert faster, or 36 hours. And Dr. Mindy Peltz, she's helped thousands of women, and we have to change it up. We can't stick to the old 16 hours on, 16 hours off. Our body needs change, and we need to get it to flip and it gets smarter is the best way I can describe it, okay? Your body's acclimating to what you're doing with your fasting schedules. So what?
Homeostasis, your body's trying to.
Yeah, it's always trying to balance it. But it likes to be challenged. Okay. This is another slide here that talks about supporting our hormones. Carbohydrates, the best carbs to eat during those hormonal feasting times is fruit, raw honey, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. We can eat sourdough bread, well-made sourdough bread, and yes, you can eat oats. I get very excited about this. I like oatmeal. You don't want to buy that nasty stuff that's sprayed with a bunch of crap. You want to get sprouted organic oats. They sell a wonderful, if you have Costco membership, they sell a wonderful sprouted oats there. That is pretty good. And we need more carbs in med. Carbs are not the enemy, okay? Simple carbs are, but carbs are not the enemy. We want good, healthy carbs in our diet. We need it to make progesterone. We need it to have hormonal balance. Proteins, anybody that's been to our workshops, you've heard this 1,000 times, that you want to eat as clean the meat as possible. You don't want it to be injected with a bunch of stuff. You don't want it to be eating a bunch of grain, grass-finished, grass-fed, eggs, raw cheese, beans. And then estrogen, all of this, flaxseed, prunes, apricots, sesame seeds. Seeds are great. Seeds and nuts, garlic, peaches, berries, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. Okay, and then progesterone. Good, healthy fats. Avocados, broccoli, beans, Brussels sprouts, chicken, citrus fruit, dark chocolate, nuts, and peppers. So these are good. And then there's more in the book that she comes to, but this is a simple list of how to support your hormones during those different phases that you're in.
Is that chart in the book?
That specific chart is not, but she has lists and charts for you to have for days. So it's outlined pretty much the same way.
My camera didn't really focus on the small print.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, Mindy in the book talks about soy. I don't agree with that, but she talks about fermented soy. I guess there's a good, healthy soy to eat. I agree.
No.
So I threw this up here. If you can't focus on this, there's a million lists online. I threw this up here to help you because this is called the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15. So when you're buying your food to support your hormones, the Dirty Dozen is a list of food that you'll want to make sure you buy that is organic. So not sprayed or less sprayed than the other foods. The Clean 15 are foods that you can get away with buying that are not organic. Okay, so that is a guide to go by that helps me with shopping. Okay, I have a husband who does shopping for me. I know, he does the grocery shopping. I'm so blessed. And I give him this list to make sure that he'll come home and be like, yes, it's organic. Thank you. So we talked about intermittent fasting. Can you go back to that one more time? Some pictures we can take. We talked about intermittent fasting. We talked about that list. We're going to talk about exercise and sleep during this cycle. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What? Oh, no, keep going. You're going the opposite way. Oh, I see.
Go forward. Thank you.
Exercise, you're good. Exercise during our cycle. I talked about it a little bit. During our follicular cycle, when we're younger and we're fertile, max it out. Hit your PRs, go for your personal best, work out hard, lift heavy. Okay, because this is the stage where you're just preparing your body to have muscle. As you go into the luteal phase, you want to bring down intensity. This is really important for fertile women, is to realize that you fluctuate throughout the month in your hormones, your energy levels, and the times you need rest. And it's really important to know that as you get closer to your period, bring down the intensity. If you go to the gym and you're working out, well, you need to work out. That balances hormones. But when you go to the gym and you're working out for 20 minutes and you're just like, I don't have the energy for this at all, go home. Because there's times where you just need to rest and let your body deal with what's happening internally. And that actually helps you more than it hurts you not to work out that one day. So in our 20s to 40s, we should be doing high interval training. So that means getting your heart rate up, keeping it up, zone 2, about 80% of your max, and doing that 2 to 3 times a day. That's really important for cardiovascular health, of course, but it also helps with that hormone balance. Good news, when we're in this stage, perimenopause and menopause, you do not want to do that. I mean, I know you don't want to, but you don't need to do that. What? You're right, it doesn't. And we're going to talk about that as we're older. And I am so excited about this. I do not have to do HIIT or Tabata anymore, but there's other things that we need to do to help those systems. Okay, next. I'm not going to go too deep into sleep. We did a wonderful workshop about sleep. It's on our YouTube page, okay? So Dr. Cameron, I believe, goes into detail about sleep. But I will tell you that women need more sleep than men. So we need like 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Who hits that? I do too. 9 to 10. This is important for hormone balance. If you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol levels are up, and that just spews off your whole hormonal hierarchy. So in young girls that are in their teenage years, actually this goes for boys too, believe it or not, like my dad used to get pissed at me for sleeping till 1 PM. They need 12 to 15 hours of sleep. It is important for their bodies to, as they develop, especially their brain. I mean, you're not really fully developed in your neurology until you're what, 25, maybe 30? But the most important aspects is a cool room, dark room, and no screen time. I've been guilty of this. It's a habit I had to break because I looked at it as my relaxation time. But when you stop that screen time, you will notice the quality of sleep that you get is, I mean, that's better. It's not best.
But how many hours is worth sleep?
Hour and a half to 2. I've gotten to like an hour before.
So what about, I use a Kindle, but so it's reading, is that still considered a screen?
Yes. It's better though. It does have like the dimmer that, I mean, it's better, but it still has an impact on the brain and registry. Yeah. Yes. Yes, it does.
Sarah, about there was an article that came out several years ago, and women that slept with television were higher cases of why, I don't know, but it's something to do with this whole thing.
Yes. I mean, well, it just activates and has things moving and going that don't necessarily need to be going at a time. Yeah, your brain, and you're getting dopamine kicks that shouldn't be going. You're getting cortisol spikes that should be going, and then that plays into hormonal imbalance. Okay. Now, talking about our periods, I grew up thinking that cramps were normal, that heavy bleeds were normal, mood swings, like, oh, she's just on her period, she's in a bad mood. Give me a freaking break. Huh? Yes, and which it is something we experience, right? Irritability, our energy goes down. We don't have the energy to deal with the things that we do at the beginning of our cycle. But excessive mood swings, extreme mood swings, excessive bleeding. My daughter used to have terrible, terrible pain where she'd just lie in a fetal position on the bed. Hot flashes, no sex drive, infertility, cyst, and fibroids, all popping up more than ever in our women. Infertility issues are rising through the roof. I read an article that says if we do not get a hold of our infertility issues, both male and female, by 2050 something, we're going to be basically an infertile population. And if you really think about that, it's very, very scary. Like, these are root cause hormonal problems that started when we were young. So we're fighting an uphill battle in our own bodies due to what we've been exposed to for a very long time. Okay, let's go. Now, the stuff that interferes, making those abnormal symptoms come to light, is environmental stressors, ecological stressors, emotional and physical stressors. Now, 2 of those we have control over, right? Emotional, physical stressors. Those are supposed to be, we're gonna have stressors in our life, but they're not supposed to be chronic, okay? And so there's things that we can do for those. We've talked about a few. Talked about all of them: sleep, nutrition, exercise. There's seasons of life that are higher stress than others, but it's supposed to be temporary. These 2 right here are the problem to what affects us as young all the way into adulthood, and that's environmental stressors and ecological stressors. So what happens when we're constantly under stress, that chronic stress, it does all of this. It lowers our body's hormonal pathways to be able to have a healthy cycle. It makes it harder to get pregnant. It reduces gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is what we needed for our cycle. Higher immune activation, which plays into autoimmune problems because our immune system is ramped up in its stressors that are in our body, so it starts identifying them as the enemy and attacking our own body. So part of those stressors is the estrogen mimickers. This is a huge problem in our society. Estrogen mimickers are molecules that our body encounters. They come from the outside, and we're exposed to them in everything. And these molecules come into the body. I'm really sorry about this, guys. When we tested this, this wasn't happening, so I'm not sure why that is, but
I can rework on it on the break.
okay. Okay. We have estrogen receptors everywhere. They're on our sex organs, but they're also in our bones, our brain, our liver, and our skin. And so when these xenoestrogens, they're exogenous, meaning outside in, the estrogen mimickers come into our body, they go to these estrogen receptors in all these areas of the body. They don't allow our own estrogen molecules to bind to those receptors. And then it activates the hormonal pathway and causes havoc on our body. It causes infertility. It causes abnormal periods, disrupts brain development. It causes problems with cognition and behavior. It crosses the fetal placental barrier and alters gene expression in our embryonic system. This is stuff that's in the air, it's in our water, it's in our clothes. It's on our tampons are coming better, they're doing better with that. In the pads, diapers, okay? This is stuff that is coming into our bodies at a very young age. There was a study that, well, I'm jumping ahead. We have 8 billion metric tons of plastic on this earth since 1907. We are living in the most, and I know a lot of our veteran patients here have heard this, the most toxic time in history we're exposed to. These plastics break down into these exogenous estrogen molecules and wreak havoc on our system. There was a study done that dissected placentas, and 100% of these placentas had plastic in these placentas. So it's a real problem. Like the mountain of stuff that we're combating that has an effect on our body that starts before we are born is a very big issue, and which is why that we have to really pay attention to what we're doing with our bodies, how we treat them, and be patient with our bodies and be very informed with our processes of our bodies. I did not know about how that period picture of how those hormones work. I wasn't taught that when I was young. I had no idea, I just figured, oh, one day I'm just going to bleed and last for 7 days and that's it. And there's so much more than that. Of all the countries in the world, the US has the youngest and earliest puberty rates starting at 10 years old. The US does. I mean, hopefully Kennedy brings some change into this stuff. I'm not being political, but he's promising change, so hopefully that is the case. So we can't control how companies package their food. We can't control what they put in the clothes, but we can control what we eat and what we put on our skin. So this is, this is a list of stuff that I used. So this can get you started. The EWG is a great app for figuring out anything you want to get clean. But that previous slide talked about home cleaners and nail polish and cosmetics and perfume. And this is stuff that I've made changes in my house that make a difference. So, and this is Just Ingredients is a platform that a woman has made. And you can go to her website and she basically has everything clean. So she has clean proteins, electrolytes, household cleaning items. She has facial cleaners, shampoo, everything, soaps. It's Just Ingredients. Mm-hmm. EWG is an app. Yeah, an environmental, what's the W?
Working group, environmental working group.
Thank you. And you can go in there and scan and it'll tell you if a product is clean. If you're at the grocery store and you're wondering, it'll help with getting cleaner items at home. For perfume, I love perfume, but it's so toxic and it's so terrible for your endocrine system. I use Henry Rose. I've used a bunch, and that's the one that has a scent that I really like.
Essential oils can also be used.
Yes, people can make very good scents from essential oils. I am not that talent, but that is something that you can do. Cleaning products. All I use is distilled vinegar, and Thieves is the best. Thieves smells so good. It's like a clovey smell. Laundry is Molly Suds. Shampoo and conditioner is Karina Organics. And then for lotion, just use body oil. Jojoba, coconut oil. Slide around on your leather seats when you're driving. It's okay. It makes you shimmer like the red carpet walkers. It's really good for your skin, though.
It's actually really good for leather too, because it
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes. You're doing two things at once, multitasking, right? And just like, yeah. Castor oil is amazing for skin. Yeah.
yes.
Castor oil will help get rid of your age
Beef
spots.
tallow is coming up. What's that?
Castor oil will help get rid of your age
Castor oil is phenomenal. Let's go here, and then does anybody need anything from here? We're almost to our break time. Getting there. Okay, go down. This is the other thing. Pesticides sprayed on our, let me make sure. Everywhere, yes. Our community sprayed on the grass. Our farmers sprayed on our crops. I mean, it's outlawed in other countries, and the U.S. buys, 70 million pounds per year from other countries. And this is, what's going on here is when this is ingested, it increases the molecular activity of aromatase. Aromatase is an enzyme that we naturally have in our bodies, and it synthesizes estrogen from testosterone. But when we have this flowing through our body, it is accelerating that process, and we are going into estrogen dominance. The big thing about this also is that it is feminizing men. So it is getting into their system and doing that as well. Not good.
I'm surprised though it says that there's 70 million that we are importing. Because there's so much stuff that we have here in the country that
Yes.
nobody else, Europe and everything. will
Yes.
have.
This is specifically like the atrazine component, but there is a bunch of other pesticides, yes, exactly, that we do. There's a YouTube video that it's not very long, it's very interesting. It's a video by Harvest Public Media called A Tale of Frogs and Fish and Men. And this guy tested atrazine. He was hired by the government to see the impact it has on biology. And what they found was exactly what's happening to us is these male frogs got feminized and started growing female reproductive organs. So this stuff is trash. That's why I'm talking about organic, clean 15, dirty dozen. There's things we can do. I am not trying to scare you and stress you out from this talk. I want you to come to another one. But it is the reality of the situation of what our bodies are up against and what we need to be aware of. We cannot depend on organizations to keep us safe when they're meant to right now.
Just a thought, it's like pesticides have been in use for what, from the 1940s? Okay, so what we've done is we've created this problem within that time frame.
Yeah.
We can adjust it.
Yes.
We've just got to stand up and say no.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, and I mean, honestly, we need to have people in higher positions fighting for change as well. We've talked a lot about this. Stuff that we've been taught in the past that's wrong for us is to eat small, frequent meals. That's not good. To eat low fat, we don't want to do that. We want to eat good fat. We need fat in our system. When we eat low fat was replaced with stuff that caused our insulin levels to go up. So we've talked a lot about this. Go on to the next slide, please. All right, so we're going to take a break after this here. But in my research, all the platforms, all the health professionals are saying that these are non-negotiables for women. We need creatine. Creatine is backed by research, tons and tons of research on the benefits it has on your body. It brings health to your brain, muscle, mood, gut, Studies show that creatine is beneficial for brain function, sleep, antioxidant properties, and bone health. Creatine is such an, it's in our meat. It's in our meat. We get it naturally. Dr. Stacy Sims, who's a very well-known medical doctor, she specializes in women's health, says that we use what we take in if we're eating enough protein. We need creatine to supplement what we're using. And the thing about creatine is that you need to take it every day. Only a small scoop. They make it flavored and non-flavored, but take it every day for it to be effective on these areas of your body. Vitamin D3, every single person, especially women, should be on vitamin D3 because unless you spend 20, 30 minutes in direct sunlight every single day, which most of Americans don't, we need vitamin D. Vitamin D impacts every single system in our body. Our cardiovascular system, our muscles, our brain, and our bones. Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, so with vitamin D3, what about, we've heard K2, that it needs to be taken with K2.
Yes, it helps you. It helps with absorption. You will absorb vitamin D3 without that, but that helps it increase the absorption and bioavailability in your body.
Dr. Ben says to go outside naked.
Dr. Ben's right.
He said it's free.
It's
your belly.
It's right. Your neck, your belly, your skin needs to be exposed to sunlight. Yes.
I have a question on creatine. I've heard research that too much can be bad for women. Is that their validity? What are they? How much?
Well, I was just thinking, I don't know how much is too much. We don't need a lot. If they're thinking like you're taking 15 milligrams a day, I mean, we don't need that. I'm sure in excess of anything can have a negative effect. We only need about 5.
So do we need to drink a lot of water and exercise when we're taking that creatine?
No, you should. That is a health component. Creatine is for these other things. A lot of people relate it to exercise only, but it has way more benefits than that.
So is it in the bone broth stuff that is creatine?
Creatine is not. No.
Dr.
You're next April.
Dr. Callahan, seminars suggest pretty pure.
Okay. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I found one, and Dr. Cameron said it was fine. That's what I was gonna say, is that we'll send you
Okay.
the website about creatine and how much.
Crea Pure. Yeah. So it's Dr. Stacy Sims. I've been looking for it. I didn't know it was on Amazon. Okay. Beautiful. It's a much better form to, if creatine hurts your stomach, Crea Pure won't. So it's a better form of creatine. Crea Pure. So it's CREAPURE.
Did you say that came too? For the vitamin D3, your sunscreen blocks
Blocks.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm a tennis player. I play on outside. I get brown. I tan really, really well.
Yeah.
And so, just as an example, one year I got so brown and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should be using sunscreen. So the next year I just coated and coated and coated, and my vitamin D3 level dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
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 So people go, oh, well, just take some. I said, I am taking some. It's still dropped.
Yeah.
But using sunscreen.
Yeah. So the whole thing with sunscreen is, yes, it does block your body from being able to absorb what it needs to from the sun to make vitamin D. So if you can afford it, go out in the sun. I'm super white. I burn. I don't tan. And when I go to the beach, I don't put on sunscreen unless I'm out in the sun for more than an hour. If I go to the beach or something like that, or hike out in the direct sunlight for more than that, I wait and then put sunscreen on if I'm worried about it. I'm usually covered up except for at the beach, so I will then break my time up in the direct sun till like my tent covering thing or whatever. But so yes, sunscreen is detrimental to that absorption. You need to be either in exposed sunlight, naked or bare skin, some way, shape, or form for 30 minutes a day, or supplementing.